Hello, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to CircuitStream's Intro to AR Development Workshop. We're so excited to have all of you join us here this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're all doing well and having a great Tuesday so far. My name is Kyle, and I'm going to be your host and moderator for today's session. Before I proceed any further, in the chat box on the right, can somebody please let me know? Can you hear me? Can you see me? How's the audio? How's the volume? Let's just confirm that everything is good before I move on. Reb says hello. Michael says good. Daniel, video and audio are good. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know, everyone. Welcome once again. So excited to have all of you joining us today. Today, we are going to be building a particularly kick-ass Pokemon Go-like application using AR Foundation, and I'm so excited to see all of the, I can't say Pokemon for copyright reasons, of course, but all of the monsters that you're going to catch with your ball that you're going to throw at them. So having tons of fun and looking forward to another workshop. Before I do proceed, there are always a couple of housekeeping items that I'd like to keep on top of, just so everyone is aware. Carl's already asking, yeah, great question. This session will be recorded. That's always the number one thing we get asked. This is obviously a live session for the first time, but everybody who signed up to attend will also be sent the recording from today's workshop, as well as the assets that we're using in the project build today, after the webinar. So once we wrap up today, those will be sent over. A couple things with the interface now that we're here in Livestorm, which is the software that we use to run these webinars. You've already all discovered the chat tab on the right of your screen. Feel free to drop your LinkedIn, network, meet with your peers. We're all like-minded individuals interested in investing and innovating with XR technology. So feel free to connect with your peers and mingle. That's what it's all about. Now, at the top of that chat tab, there are a few other tabs that are worth mentioning as well. First and foremost, we've got the questions tab. So in the questions tab, we would ask that if you do have questions throughout the webinar, please paste them there rather than in the chat. We are running through a good amount of material today. And so to keep on top of all of these questions and to make sure that we don't miss any, please paste them in that tab up there, as it'll allow us to stay organized and on schedule. And don't worry, there will be an in-depth Q&A session that happens after the technical presentation with my colleague Indica, who is backstage. Last thing worth mentioning in the interface for Livestorm here, beside the questions tab, there's also a polls tab. I'm going to be dropping in 2 different polls today throughout the workshop. I will provide fair warning, but this really helps us stay engaged with the audience. It also allows us to learn more about you and your interest in this space. So I'm going to be asking, casual questions, things like how much Unity experience do you have? Did you enjoy today's workshop? That type of thing. So please, it really does help us out a lot if you could answer those polls when I drop them into the chat. Last thing, I always love to do this at the beginning of every workshop. Where is everybody located? Where in the world are you tuning in from today? I myself am in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's about 11 a.m. here, just before lunch. But we always seem to get tons of international folks joining our workshops, and it's always so nice to see everybody joining. We've got Reb in Sweden, Lena also in Toronto. Hey, Lena, hope you're enjoying the nice weather here today so far. We've got Amgad joining from Qatar, Juan Franco in Colombia, Denmark. Wow, really, oh, Hong Kong. Wow, Yin, welcome. It must be pretty late over there in Hong Kong. Really international crowd today. Awesome to see. Love to connect with folks from all around the world. Just so everybody is aware, again, this is going to be recording. You're all going to have access to the recording, the assets, and everything else. So sit tight. That will be sent to you once we wrap up the live session today. Now, in terms of an agenda, really quickly, just so everybody's aware, I'm going to take probably 10 to 15 minutes to introduce Unity, to introduce XR, to introduce CircuitStream, and to talk a little bit about what we do. Once I wrap up with that presentation, my colleague Indica, who is currently backstage, he'll be taking over. He's going to be doing the technical presentation or demonstration with you today. He'll be teaching you how to build the application. That should take roughly 45 minutes, maybe more, maybe less. It always depends on whether we're encountering bugs or anything like that. And no, not Pokemon bugs, like bugs in Unity. Come on, be serious now. Anyways, that should take about 45 minutes, at which point I will come back on stage to wrap things up and conclude with another, call it 5-10 minute presentation. And it's at that point that we will do the in-depth Q&A session. So without further ado, let's kick things off. Hello again, everyone. Good morning. My name is Kyle. I am going to be your workshop lead today, your host, your moderator, whatever you want to call me. I'm the education lead here at CircuitStream, and it's nice to see a couple of familiar faces in the audience. For those of you who have attended our workshops before, I'm sure you've heard these workshop intros before. I bring about 3 years of professional experience to the table today. This experience spans across the professional sports industry and now in the wonderful world of VR. A little bit of a fun fact about myself: I am an NBA champion. No, I was not a player, but yes, I do have my ring. I did have the opportunity to take part in the 2019 NBA champion Toronto Raptors season. One of the coolest experiences of my life, and it's a story that I love to tell, but it's one that I'll save for another day. I am going to be joined by Indika. Indika is actually joining us from Sri Lanka, if I'm not mistaken, and he's one of our lead instructors here at CircuitStream, teaching workshops and webinars like today, as well as our courses. He's got over 5 years of experience developing for VR, and he's got a wealth of experience in the immersive technology industry. A little bit of a fun fact about Indika. I always love spinning this up as a bit of a joke here. Some people like getting caught in the rain, but not Indika. He likes getting caught up in deep conversations about emerging technology, and we're so excited to have him join us today. Now, who's CircuitStream? Who are we, and what do we do, and what are we all about? Well, we are a Canadian education company that was founded in 2015 when we noticed a gap in the personalized training and educational space in the immersive technology industry, or XR, which is just a fancy umbrella term for extended reality, which refers to the augmented, virtual, and mixed reality spectrums. As of early fall, late 2020, we've actually supported over 35,000 individual learners in XR and in Unity. These learners have taken part in our various workshops and webinars just like today, as well as our courses, which I'm going to speak about in just a bit here over the years. And we're so proud to have hit this milestone. We're really excited to have supported so many folks launching their journeys in XR. We are also a Unity authorized training and channel partner too. We've got a really, really strong relationship with Unity. And we've actually created training content to support their learning programs in the past as well. They do recognize our programs and our certifications, which I will speak about in a little bit, but more on that later. Lastly, worth mentioning as well, we're also an Oculus certified independent services vendor and a Microsoft mixed reality partner. Today in 2021, we're a team of about 20 to 25 experts coming from all over the world, from different backgrounds, to teach folks of all skill levels, really, about the value of this technology and how to build and design applications within Unity. Now, coming back to Unity really quickly, we are a Unity certified training partner. What exactly does that mean? Well, training partners are approved by Unity based on their expertise, their focus on quality education, and their commitment to providing the highest level of training in the industry available today. And so what that means is we strategically partner with Unity to collaborate on creating educational training content of the highest quality for folks of all skill levels and for their companies. So above all else, we are an educational company. As you can see here on screen, we've had the pleasure of working with some of the world's largest and most exciting brands. Given how quickly the VR and AR industry is accelerating, some of the biggest companies in the world are taking notice and innovating with this technology, and we've had the privilege and honor to work with some of these folks on screen, or these folks on screen and more that we couldn't fit all into one slide. So how does it all manifest itself? Well, We have an academic portfolio of free online workshops and webinars, just like today's session, and also a variety of courses that we offer. These are all designed to help students learn how to build and design VR and AR content within the Unity engine. These courses are mainly for beginners, but we do also have a more intermediate or advanced development course for folks that are already proficient with Unity and in programming using the C# language. So we do offer 3 main courses here at CircuitStream. 2 of them focus on XR development, and 1 of them focuses on XR design. So on screen here, you can see our 2 developer courses. But it is worth mentioning that both at the developer and at the design pathway level, there is a beginner-friendly 10-week program available. While here at the development level on screen, we do again have that more advanced XR project accelerator course. Now, all 3 of these courses here, so the 2 on screen as well as the design course, which I'll speak about in a second, these are supported by another course that we've created, so the 4th in our portfolio. It's a 3-week intro to C# scripting course, and it supports our bundles, which I will reference later on. It is important to note that what we're teaching in any of these courses, they're not unique to any one particular platform or piece of hardware. So if you've got a Mac, if you've got a PC, if you're doing mobile AR for an Android or an iPhone, the point is we can help you out no matter what you're teaching. We try to remain as platform agnostic as possible because essentially what we're teaching you is a collection of skills and best practices or techniques that are generally applicable to any device on the market today. Now, getting specific here, on the left, the XR Development with Unity course is our flagship program. It includes 40 hours of live training over a 10-week period and is beginner-friendly at that development level. It's typically where we recommend most folks start out with us. And this program actually includes 2 90-minute lessons per week, where we'll go over the fundamentals of what we believe beginner developers should know. And on top of that, it also includes a weekly one-on-one appointment with an instructor, just like Indica. The Accelerator course, on the other hand, is the more intermediate or advanced course for folks who already have that proficiency in Unity and with coding in C#. This course is all about taking your existing skill set to the next level and to helping you accelerate your project idea or project prototype that you're already working on. Like the XR development course, it does include 2 90-minute lessons per week, but in this case, you actually get 2 one-on-one appointments per week on top of the lessons. And the idea here, again, is we want to help you continue to polish your skill set and take your prototype to the next level in the one-on-one appointments. Now, the third course that is in our academic portfolio is our beginner-friendly interaction design and prototyping for XR course. This is our newest program, the one that we've most recently come out with. And we've taken everything that we know about teaching beginners fundamental skill sets in XR, and we've built another 10-week course around the concepts. The idea here is that the schedule operates in the exact same way that our 10-week XR development course does, but the major difference in this course is that it includes no code whatsoever. So we want to be able to equip XR designers or XR designers to be with the skills needed to be able to prototype XR content without being bogged down by C# coding if that's not something you have an aptitude for or are interested in. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on these programs for now, but I am going to discuss them in greater detail later on in this workshop. But for now, one of the things that you might be asking yourself is, what makes us different from other VR and AR educational companies? Well, we really believe, and I think the vast majority of our students would agree, it's the one-on-one support that's included in and even after our programs as well. We really believe that fundamentally the best way to learn something new is to get hands-on, get your hands dirty, and start building, start creating. By building your own prototype with the help of an expert that will meet with you every week, you have the opportunity to work on your very own project for your portfolio, which is a major benefit no matter what your long-term goals are. This is what students love the most about working and learning with us. It's also important to note that beyond the courses themselves, we do offer one-to-one training packages with our instructors if you want to learn without a preset curriculum. The idea here is that you'd be getting the same one-on-one support that you'd be getting in our courses, but without actually attending weekly classes. The final academic offering in our portfolio is our team training opportunities. So if your company is considering investing in XR technology or is looking to have a group of folks from your organization upskill in this space together, we would love to work with you to create a customized training program pathway that is designed to your specific needs and your specific challenges. Again, assuming that they aren't met by any of the programs I've already referenced today. These are bootcamp style sessions, and they're great because they teach specifically what you're looking to learn to help you and your organization maximize the value of your investment, of your innovation with this technology. So in this sector, we've had the pleasure of working with organizations like the US Navy, like Walmart, like VMware, and most recently, just a couple of months ago, with BMW as well. Okay, great. Enough about us for now, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about Unity. So what is Unity? Well, first, just to gauge the audience, I'm actually going to drop in my first poll of the day. So I always like to ask this one in our workshops. How much experience do you have on a scale of 1 to 10? So if everybody could navigate on over to the polls tab at the top there and drop in their answers, I always like to see sort of what we're looking with here. See results. Okay, just as we suspected. So today is a mostly beginner audience. It seems that most people in the room today have listed themselves at either a 0 or a 1 on a scale of 0 to 10 in terms of Unity experience. We do have a couple more advanced folks in the room. So to those folks, I'm sorry, bear with me for just half a second here while we talk about Unity itself. So what is Unity? Ultimately, Unity is a development engine. It's a program that can be used to create both 2D and what they call real-time 3D content. And this real-time 3D content encompasses augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality, or again, XR. The long-term service, or LTS for short, version of Unity is a free program to use, and it's this version or these versions of Unity that our programs are supported by. For the record, there are developer licenses available for purchase with Unity on an annual subscription or monthly subscription basis. As a partner, we are authorized to facilitate these purchases for you and your team, but again, for the purposes of our programs, they're not required. In our opinion, Unity is definitely the program out there that's most beginner friendly if you're looking to begin making your own XR applications, and it's also the industry leader today. Burning Glass Technologies, which is a really well-respected analytics company in the tech space, estimates that today about 65% of all of the world's XR content is built using Unity, and it's for that reason that we teach with this engine specifically. So now that we know what Unity is, how do you actually execute an idea? How do you take an idea and how do you make an application with it? Well, if we follow this flowchart here from left to right, like anything, these apps all start with an idea. From there, you need to build your assets and bring them into a program like Unity to be able to use C# coding to create what we call scripts, which is how a user in VR or AR actually interacts with virtual objects around them to power those interactions. So today we're going to be using AR Foundations, which is an asset package that Indica will walk you through to be able to power the interactions that we're using today. Once you've made your build in Unity, you need to leverage what's called an SDK, which stands for a software development kit, to effectively verify that your target headset, device, platform, whatever it is that is going to be hosting your app, is capable of hosting it. imagine a funnel. So you've got your build in Unity. You need to be able to squeeze your build through this funnel. And what comes out the other side is the application that will work on your target device. And then you're done. Once you've rendered your application, you've got an app, you've got it on your device, and you can, as a user, interact with what you've built. So that's going to be it for me from Unity. But let's talk about today. What are we going to be talking about with Indica in just a moment? Well, Indica is going to be running you through how Unity from start to finish can be used to create AR applications. He's going to be talking about some major tools used in AR and indirectly VR as well for development. He's going to be talking about plane tracking. That is how your camera can sense its surroundings to be able to create virtual objects that the user can interact with. And we're going to be talking about how we can track those virtual objects and place them in a real environment. So today is an intro to AR development in Unity. I'd like to take this time to invite Indica up here on stage. Again, folks, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. We're super excited to have Indica join us. A couple really quick thoughts as well worth sharing, and we say this at every workshop. You are going to be sent the recording from today's workshop. So our best advice is don't try to keep up with what Indica's doing in real time at home. Wait until you have the recording to be able to follow along. We're really going to be moving quick. We are going to be flying through some content today as we do have a bit of a packed schedule, but you will be sent everything to try at home with the recording. So just be an active listener, take notes, ask questions, do whatever you got to do, but just try and follow along visually this time around. Indica, the man, the myth, the legend, here you are. Take it away. The screen is all yours. Have fun, my guy.
Well, thank you very much, Kyle. Good morning, good evening, good night, all of you guys joining from all around the world. I'm Indica from all the way joining from Sri Lanka. So, this is the introduction to augmented reality while building a game similar to Pokemon Go. Right, so before jumping into the development everything, right, I'm going to give you a basic introduction of what augmented reality is and what sort of augmented reality platforms that we have the time is now 8:53, probably the Indian time. I'm in the Indian time zone. Cool. All right, so let me share my screen, and I'm going to give you a basic introduction to AR. Right, let me select my screen. All right, hope you can see my screen. If you can, just pop in the chat that you can see my screen. Right, you can see everything very well. All good, awesome. Right, so when it comes to augmented reality, right, and virtual reality are like two basic things. Virtual reality is kind of like you put yourself immersed in a virtual, fully virtual environment. But augmented reality is that you have the actual physical world, but on top of that physical world, you spawn content. You'll be able to see 3D models. You'll be able to see characters, various different stuff around, right? Just like Iron Man, right? So when it comes to augmented reality that we have right now, there are basically different types of augmented reality, right? So the first one is the marker-based augmented reality. So this thing came like way back, like around 1980s or 1990s, right? Which we call the marker-based AR. They came up with very basic types of markers. So basically, you have some sort of a known image, right? And when you scan that image, since that is a known image, on top of that known image, the system or this program is capable of spawning an item on top of it, right? So earlier days there used to be just standard black and white markers, and then people came up with different algorithms, some highly optimized algorithms to track any sort of an image, right, which we call natural feature tracking. Right, so you're able now these days you are capable of using your own poster or your own coaster or any type of a graphics, and on top of that you'll be able to spawn content. The other one is markerless AR, right? So obviously we are going to be using markerless AR today. So as you can see in the right hand side, this is Pokemon Go, right? we're going to be using something like that. SLAM, yes. Localization and mapping, exactly. So this markerless AR kind of uses the camera and other sensors such as LiDAR or basically the camera that we have right now. Using that camera, the system can identify the planes and obstacles around you, right? So this we call markerless AR. So when these systems can identify the planes, right, and obstacles, uh, it is capable of putting 3D models and 3D virtual content on top of these virtual planes, right? So that's why we call markerless AR. So today we're going to be building something like this. We're going to see how to use the Unity engine to build something with AR plugins that is provided by mobile phones. Right. Yeah. The other one is basically tracking body parts, right? So that's when you open up Facebook, Snapchat. So this is the first thing that you see, right? So it opens up your front camera and then it detects the face and it spawns, something on top of your face, just like this. We call them as face filters. And also there are various machine learning and artificial intelligence materials. Artificial intelligence algorithms used to identify your shoes, your feet, or maybe your hand. Like there are tons of stuff that can be do today. So we're going to be focusing today only on markerless AR and on that on top of Unity. So these days in the current world, if you are going to be building AR augmented reality applications, there are various different channels, right? So the easiest channels are your iPhone or your Android device, right? So I think everybody has a smartphone these days, right? Everybody has it. So basically, in iPhones, there is something called AR Kit. So this is provided by Apple, right? So we're going to be, we can use AR Kit to develop our own augmented reality content in Apple iPhones. And also, similarly, Android came up with something called AR Core, which is the similar, which is really similar to AR Kit, which does the same, same kind of algorithms. Right. And apart from that, we have wearables, right? These are compared with the mobile devices, these are a little bit expensive. For example, Microsoft HoloLens, it uses something called Windows SDK to identify the environment around you. And also there is something called Magic Clip, which is a wearable device. It uses an operating system known as Lumin, and it uses Lumin SDK to identify the environment. All right. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so now that we talk about different types of SDKs, right? Imagine you're going to be building a project for Apple iPhones, right? And then you have to use ARKit, and then you want to convert it to Android, right? So then you have to write everything from the beginning with AR Core, right? Similarly, you have to, for HoloLens, you have to do it with SDK, Windows SDK. And also with Magic Leap, you have to use Lumin SDK. So this was a huge drawback like a couple of years back. So Unity, being the game changer, came up with something called AR Foundation, right? You can see right here. So basically, if this is your AR app, you're going to be using something called AR Foundation, which wraps up all of these 4 different platforms. Now you can see here, this is ARKit. This is AR Core, Magic Clip, HoloLens, right? Underneath, they use their, underneath this AR Foundation plugin uses different types of SDKs. So everything is already done for us, right? So we just have to use AR Foundation. We can build it for Apple iPhones, and is just as clicking a button, you can convert it directly to an Android, right? Or a Magic Leap, or a Windows, HoloLens. So basically for these two, you might have to do some little bit of further configurations. But for iOS and Android, it's going to be fairly simple. All right. So there are when it comes to different types of channels, there are various different features that these channels are capable of, right? For example, AR Core and ARKit has everything, right? Device tracking, plane tracking, point clouds, anchors, estimating the light around you, and also face tracking, 2D image tracking in the sense like, scan posters and stuff. So all of these are available in iPhones and Androids through ARCo and ARKit. But there's something missing: meshing. So meshing is basically, I think now, so this was a bit of an older version of a feature comparison. But nowadays, Apple came up with a LiDAR sensor where it is capable of now meshing as well. So basically, meshing is using a secondary sensor to capture the whole world around you, right? Not just planes and not just like horizontal walls, your floors, tabletops, not just that. It can identify every object, even this bottle, right? Even if you like scan it with your with that device, you'll be able to identify the bottle as well. So we call that as meshing. So Magic Leap and HoloLens, they do not provide any sort of image tracking or any sort of recognitions, but they provide meshing extensively. So we can actually, when we are building stuff, we should be able to use this meshing to reference and to build various different applications. And we have to do our own recognition algorithms in it. But there are like a lot of plugins that are available in the market. All right, so without further ado, let's stop this from here, and then let's go into building our Pokemon Go AR application. So I'm going to show you a video of what we are going to be building today. I believe you can see this. So this is my living room, right? My small apartment. I have my couch, and on top of my couch, I have this strange-looking Pokemon. So if I play this, I'll be able to swipe up, right? Swipe up and throw the ball, and now I can see that ball kind of like goes away and comes up back. So let me do it one more time. Oh, there you go. You caught the Pokemon, right? So it's pretty basic. So we are going to be building this from scratch, right? So I have like different assets that I'm going to be using, such as this Pokeball and also the monster, right? And we're going to be providing them right after this session is over, right? So we are going to be sending you all of the assets and all of the project files as well. All right. So if you are fairly new to Unity, so there you go. If you're fairly new to Unity, you just have to download Unity and install. In my scenario, I'm going to be using an Android device, my poorly looking Android phone. I'm going to be using that. Since I'm going to be using Android, I have to install, instead of Unity, I have to install Android plugins as well, right? Android external tools as well. So you can do that by going to installs. And here you'll be able to see all of the versions of Unity that I have installed, right? So I'm going to be using 2020.1 for this. And as you can see here, my 2020.1 supports iOS and Android as well. So in any case, if you don't have this, you can go to, you can click this, go to add modules, and select Android build support for Android and iOS build support for iOS, right? So one thing to mention is that if you are building for iOS, you have to do it on a Mac. Otherwise, you won't be able to build it. You can build it, but you won't be able to put it in your iPhone because it's Apple, right? Tomato, Apple, iPhones, and Mac. That's what it is. But if you're using an Android, you can use either a Mac or a PC. So I'm here, obviously I'm using a PC. Right. So I'm going to go to the project section, and I'm going to create a new project. Right. So you can do that by clicking this. So if you have multiple versions, you'll see this drop down. So I'm going to choose 2020.1.6 F1. Right. So you can give a place. And so let me select go circuit stream, just like this. I just selected a folder, and you can give your name, Pokemon Go sample. And here I'm going to be using the universal render pipeline, right? So you can use either 3D. Universal render pipeline is a new graphics. Hey, Mark. Universal render pipeline is a new way how Unity renders stuff. But we are not going to be like going deeper into that. We're just going to be using the basic materials. But I'm going to be using universal render pipeline because it's the new thing, right? So if you click create, it's going to take some sort of time to create a project for you. I'm not going to be doing that because it might take a massive amount of our valuable time. So when you do that, let me close them. You will be treated with something like this, right? So here I'm going to give you a basic introduction to. So since every like half of you guys are like very new to Unity, I'm going to be giving you an introduction to this Unity's interface, right? So in the middle, you can see the scene window, right? Scene window, which consists of all of the 3D models that you have put together in this scene. So imagine a scene as a level, right? Or a PowerPoint slide, right? A scene is something you can play around, a space that you can play around. And by the left-hand side, there is something called hierarchy. And inside that hierarchy, you'll be able to see all of the 3D models that you have put in this scene, right? For example, if I click this workshop set, it automatically gets selected, right? And vice versa. If I select this hat, safety hat, it will get selected right over here. And by the right hand side, there is something called the inspector window, right? So if I, for example, if I click this object, you can see that the properties of this changed, right? So basically, when you select a game object, the inspector window kind of shows all of the components that is attached to that game object, right? So I call them as game objects because all of these objects are known as game objects in Unity, right? So in the right hand side, in the inspector window, you can see different types of components. So if I select this, there's going to be something called transform, mesh filter, mesh renderer, and various different stuff, right? A lot of drop downs, which might make you a little bit confusing, but don't worry. Okay, and when you, for example, when you select this main camera, you can see that it changed everything, and it shows something called camera over here, right? So basically, this is this camera inside the scene window is what you see in the scene. So if I move my camera, you can see the game window, which is the preview window, which actually you see when you build this in your mobile phone, right? It is what the camera sees right over here. All right. And also at the bottom, you can see something called project. So this is where you have all of these folders, and you can change the layout of this to 1-column layout or a 2-column layout, right? In 2-column layout, you can select different folders and you can see what's in it, right? Basically, this looks like a file manager. All right. So in any case, if you don't see any of these windows, you can go to Window, General, and select scene, game, inspector, hierarchy. All of these windows will be here, and you'll be able to dock them, right? For example, you can take this game window out and put it right here. You docked it, right? So these are going to be like tabs. Cool. All right. So the easiest way to move around this scene window is by holding your right click and pressing W to move forward, S to move backwards, A to move left, and D to move right. And while doing that, so you can move your mouse, right? You can press like multiple keys like W, A, S, D, and you'll be able to easily navigate throughout this scene. So that is the best way that I have experience in navigating this scene. All right, the introduction is over. Now I'm going to be building the Pokemon Go app. So first of all, I don't need this scene, right? I need a new scene, right? Basically, this is something that is put together for us. So I'm going to create a new scene. So I have a folder called Workshop 1 dedicated to this. I'm going to create a new folder inside it. I'm going to right click here, create folder. I'm going to rename this as scenes. I'm going to double click and open it. I'm going to right click inside this, go to create and select scene. So this will create a new scene, and I'm going to name it as AR Pokemon go. Right? So when you select, so you can open this scene by double clicking on this scene, and it will ask, since we are like changing the scene, it will ask whether I want to save this current scene. I don't want it. Now here you have an empty scene. There's nothing but the sky, right? The horizon. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Unity know that this is going to be an Android app, right? And this is going to be an Android AR app, right? To do that, the first thing that you want to do is to change your target, right? So usually now in my project, this is like already changed to Android. But when you do that, if you go to File, Build Settings, it's going to show you something like this, right? Just look at the bottom side of it. It's going to be selected this PC, Mac, and Linux. So if you are building for iOS, you have to select iOS over here. And if you're building to Android, you have to select Android. So now I'm already in my Android target, right? So if I want to switch this to iOS, you have to select iOS and select switch platform. So it's going to take a while to convert all of these 3D models and all of these textures and objects. But after that, it will change its platform to Android or whatever it is. And on the top, you'll be able to see your build target. So if you have PC, Mac, or Linux, immediately go and change it to either Android or iOS. Cool. Right. Now, the next thing is we want to install the plugins, the AR plugins, to make things work. Right. So to do that, we go to something called Package Manager. Right, Package Manager is something that holds a lot of packages, plugins in it. So we have to add those add-ons. So to do that, I'm going to go to Window, Package Manager, and it will show a window like this. And it will refresh the packages. So these things are like refreshed from the Unity's cloud, Unity's internet services. So we have to wait until this refreshes. All right. So if you don't see a list, probably you are not in the correct drop down, right? So on the top, there's a drop down which says Unity, maybe like My Assets, or, oh man, it started refreshing that as well. Or like in project, right? So you have to select this to Unity registry. And if you are building this application for Android, you have to search something called AR Core XR plugin. If you are building this for iOS, you have to use AR Kit XR plugin, right? So since I'm using my Android, I'm just going to be using AR Core XR plugin. And the version that you're going to install is really important because sometimes with these version upgrades, there are like a ton of issues, right? So 4.1.1 is one version that I didn't find any of these, compatibility issues. If you don't see this, just expand this and select the See Other Versions, and you'll be able to see a bunch of different versions of this AR Core XR plugin. Similarly, it goes with AR Kit as well. Awesome. So you have to select this, right? And over here, you'll see something like this, install, right? Select this and hit that install button, and it will install AR Core XR plugin as to your project. Now, since we are using Unity, Unity has something called AR Foundation, which wraps up that AR Core plugins, right? So we don't need to use AR Core anymore because we can use AR Foundation instead of AR Core, right? So select the AR Foundation as well. The versions has to be exactly similar, right? If your AR Core XR plugin is 4.1.1, the AR Foundation also has to be 4.1.1, right? All right, so you can select that and you can download. So you can even either update as well, but I'm being really careful. I don't want to update this. By updating this might give me a ton of errors. So 4.1.1 is what I'm using. Maybe in the future, there's going to be like some new stable versions as well. All right, so you have to install both of these two. Now, now this project knows that this is going to be an AR application, but it is not confirmed, right? To confirm, you have to go to Edit, Project Settings, and it will open up, something like this, a window, something like this. And you have to select XR Plugin Management And in it, you have to take AR core. So if you are building for iOS, you'll be able to see something like AR Kit. For example, if I select iOS right over here, you have to select AR Kit. But since I'm building for Android, I just select AR core. Apart from that, if you are building for iOS, there are like various different changes, configurations that you have to do, right? For example, you have to go to player settings, right? In player settings, you have to go to, let me check this one right here. There's something called AR Kit enabled. Let me see that. I'm not really seeing that. Oh, there you go. Requires ARKit support. You have to tick it, and also you have to make sure that your minimum iOS version is 11, because there's iOS 10 version doesn't support ARKit. And also you have to put something over here, camera user description. So this is basically the permission description. For example, you can type here like, we are using the camera for augmented reality. You can type something like that. Otherwise, it's not gonna let you build your project. All right. If you're using Android, first thing you have to do is you have to go to this AutoGraphics API, and you'll be able to see something called Vulkan on top. Oh man, I did a bad thing. All right, so you're going to be seeing something called Vulkan on top. And basically, what you have to do is you have to get rid of it, because the AR Foundation and AR Core doesn't support that Vulkan. So that this one is basically a graphics API. You don't need to worry about anything. Just get rid of it. That's fine. All right. Okay, I'm going to get rid of it. And I think that's pretty much it. Cool. All right, now it's the time to develop. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is, I'm going to clean everything. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, add some objects, right? I'm going to go to my hierarchy window, right click, XR, I'm going to select AR session. So by doing that, so if you select AR session, you can see various different components right here, right? AR session and AR input manager, don't worry about it. I'm going to right click here again. I'm going to select XR AR session origin. So AR session kind of creates a new augmented reality session in your device, and AR session origin kind of creates the originating point of the virtual world inside this augmented reality app, right? So inside this AR session origin, you will be able to see another camera, which is known as AR camera. So this AR camera, this is what you see in your phone, right? All of the 3D models are seen by this camera, and it will be, provided to you. Now, since I had a camera already in this, I'm going to delete this, right? And I'm going to get rid of it because I have a camera now, right? And this camera, I'm going to tag that as the main camera. So I select my camera, go to my inspector window. In tag, I'm going to select this as main camera. All right, cool. That's it. Now, basically, this is an AR app. So the first one that we want to do is, so basically the idea is that you open up your camera, you scan around, right? And when you do, it will identify a floor or a tabletop or anything, any sort of a plane around you, and it will spawn a monster on top of it. So that's the basic idea. So the first task is to identify the planes, which is really easy, right? So you go to AR session origin. In here, in the inspector window, click add component and select AR plane manager right over here, right? That's it. Now this will track all of the planes, right? But we want to have a perception. We want to have an idea about the planes that is being tracked. To do that, we add a plane object, right? A plane object that can draw a plane when this AR session origin kind of tracks, right? So to do that, I'm going to right click the hierarchy again, go to XR and select AR default plane. When I select it, you'll be able to see a little bit of a line over here. So that line, I'm going to explain what this line is. So if you select this AR default plane, you can see a bunch of scripts, bunch of different components right here. And if you go to this mesh renderer, you can see that there is something called a line renderer. So this line renderer is what causes this line. So if you deselect it, the line renderer goes. If you select it, line renderer spawns. Right? So this is basically a polygon that draws planes around you. That's it. So you do that and you go to File, go to Build Settings, select your target platform. And one thing to note is that you're going to be building your new scene, right? So what you have to do is you have to click Add Open Scenes, which is AR Pokemon Go. I have like multiple scenes in it. I'm going to untick this. AR Pokemon Go is the scene that I'm going to be using to build. And I select Build right over here. So if you have an Android, it will create an Android package file, which is also known as APK, where you can put it into your Android device and install. But if you are building it for iOS, there's a long way to do that. You have to build it. When you build that, it will give you another bunch of code, right? Another bunch of project elsewhere, which you have to open up using a tool called couldn't remember the Xcode, right? A tool called Xcode, and through Xcode, you'll be able to plug in your iPhone to your Mac and run it, right? So I'm not going to be explaining that because I'm going to be focusing on developing this solution, right? So when you do that, I'm going to show you a video of what you would actually see. So not this one. So let me drag my video. Oops, this one right here. There you go. So when you move around, as you can see, my real life Pokemon is over here on top of my table, right? So when you like scan around, you'll be able to see that this line over here kind of draws boundaries. See, it draws boundaries around the detected planes, right? Obviously, this is not like 100% accurate, right? Still, we are in the early stages of AR. But when you scan around, you'll be able to see these planes. So the idea is to spawn a monster in the middle of in the middle of one of these tracked planes, right? So to do that, we're going to have to use a lot of coding, right? I'm not going to code in real time, but I'm going to show my code and I'm going to explain what that code does. Right. So if you're fairly new to C#, you might find a little bit hard for that to understand, but we have a lot of C# blogs, a ton of C# courses in our Circuit Stream website. You can go there and learn everything. So apart from that, I'm just going to be showcasing the code for everything. All right. Okay, that's done. So now our idea is to spawn a monster in the middle, right? So to do that, the first thing that I have to do is to get a monster in the scene, right? So when you get this project, you're going to be having access to something called AR Pokemon Go assets. And inside of it, you're going to see something like monster. And inside it, you'll see something called Monster Hunter. So drag and drop it inside your scene, into your scene. And from the inspector window, I can reset the position of this monster. I'm going to be choosing 0, 0, 0, which will place the monster over here. Ha! There you go. This is a funny looking innocent monster right here. All right, so inside this monster, right, if you go to window, animation, sorry, not that. So inside this monster, you're going to be seeing an animation right here, right? You can expand this. You can see an animation. It's nothing new, like it's just a very small idle animation, right? So I'm not going to be explaining that. So basically, just imagine this is the monster, right? Okay. So that's pretty much it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some small code, right? And I'm going to put that into this AR session origin. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my workshop 1 folder. Inside of this, I'm going to create another folder which is dedicated for scripts, right? And here I'm going to create a new script. Script is basically a C# code. I'm going to right click, create C# script, right? So here I'm going to give a name. I'm going to give a random name. Plain detection. It's a random name. You can give your own name into this. All right, so hold on for a moment while I, opened up my Visual Studio. So once this is created, you have to wait until it compiles. All right, and you can double click it and open it in Visual Studio, right? Okay, so basically in Unity, this is the template. This is the C# template, right? Over the top, you see the plugins, the other APIs that this particular script is using, right? It is using system.collections, and also it is using Unity Engine, so on and so forth, right? So here, this one we call as a class, right? Which is an object, right? The name of that object is plain detection, and also it is inherited from another object called as mono behavior, right? So inside of this, we have two different methods called start method and the update method. Start method is something that we use to initialize something, and the update method is kind of like a loop, right? So when you're running this game, the update method, triggers all the time. All right, so I'm not going to be using any live coding here, but instead, I'm going to show you a similar code that I have written called generate monster, right? So it is the same, same plain detection thing. I'm not going to be using this. Instead, I'm going to be using generate monster. Okay, so from the top, I have imported the AR Foundation and AR Subsystems packages, right? APIs by using unityengine.xr.ar foundation, xr.ar subsystems, right? And and look at this, right? So I have two different public variables, right? So these public variables, one is known as Airplane Manager, which is the Airplane Manager that we just put in the Unity scene. I named it as Plane Manager. And also I have something, a reference object called Monster, right? So just focus only on these two. Right, now see what happens inside this update method. So there is a loop that identifies all the planes that are in the scene, right? So when you move around your camera, it will identify a lot of planes, and it will iterate through all of these planes that is identified. And let's see what it does. Here, it checks that a monster is already placed in the scene, right? It checks whether a monster is already placed in the scene, and the particular plane that detects for the first time is a horizontal plane, horizontal up. So plane alignment equals to plane alignment.horizontal up checks whether that particular plane's alignment is either the floor or the ceiling. So if you have a dot here, you can see four different types: horizontal down, horizontal up, vertical. If you want to spawn this on a wall, then you can choose vertical. But here I'm just going to be using horizontal up, right? Horizontal down means the ceiling. Horizontal up means the floor, right? If the plane alignment is on the floor and if there is no monster in the scene already, then instantiate a new monster, right? Instantiate means create a new object, right? So in this instantiate object, we have separate parameters, what we call. You need to instantiate monster, right? And the position of that should be the midpoint. That plane.transform.position kind of give the middle point of the plane, spawn the monster there, and this is the rotation. Don't worry about it. Quaternion.identity gives the basic, the default rotation, and that's it. And at the same time, we set this boolean, this flag, as is monster placed. So if you execute this once, right, it will not be executed again because it checks the monster is already placed at once. So if this is false at the beginning, it's going to be true at the first stage. Then if it tries to iterate again, it's not going to go in this because the monster is placed, right? No need to place another monster. If you didn't have this is monster placed boolean variable in it, you'll be able to see something like this. Let me show you. Okay, I'm scanning. Oh, there you go. Multiple monsters looking back at me, right? That's what it is. So I have like, this is kind of a failed experiment. It should actually spawn, monsters in all the different planes. But here we go. Cool. Now what we have done is we have done something called hide plane detection. Hide plane detection is another method that I wrote inside this C# script, inside this class. Okay, see what it does. It will disable the plane manager, right? So plane manager is what we have here in the AR session origin. It will disable that, so the device will not try to find more planes around, right? And it will go through each and every plane that is already detected, and it will deactivate them, right? That's pretty much it. All right. Okay, so when you do that, you'll be able to see something similar to this, right? There will be only one guy right here. So here, my hide plane detection is not added in this particular video. So basically, you'll be able to see just one monster in the whole scene. Right, now is the crucial part, right? Adding the Pokeball and pushing it, right? So to do that, first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new ball over here, right? So I'm going to get rid of this monster. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. So since you have created that generate monster script, you have to attach it to. I'm gonna attach it to AR session origin. So my script is right over here, right? Monster generate monster. I'm gonna drag my script. I'm gonna put it over here. Okay, since I have like two different public variables, which is the AR plane manager and the monster, I have to assign the monster to this, and also the plane manager, which is this object itself, which is the AR session origin, and I'm going to put it right over here, right? All right. Also, here you can see this plane prefab. It is because this plane has to be there. I forgot to mention that previously. You just have to drag this AR default plane and put it on top of this. That's it. Cool. Okay, so now this will work as I showed you before. Right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a ball, right? I'm going to right click here, 3D object sphere, which will give me a massive Pokeball or a sphere like this. I'm going to reset the position of this to 0, 0, 0. And also I'm going to scale this to 0 0.1, 0 0.1, and 0 0.1. So you can see this ball in shape, right? I'm going to take it all the way like around here, right? And there you go. So I can create a material by, right click, create material. And this material, I'm going to name it as Pokeball, right? And I'm going to drag my material on top of my ball. And I'm going to select my material. And I'm going to change the colors of this, right? I can just give like a red color. Okay, so before doing anything, I'm going to explain to you what I'm going to be building, right? So the first thing that you have to do is you have to get the ball to this position, right? You have to get it, really close to the edge of the screen, right? And when you swipe up, right, it should create a force to this ball such that it will be thrown into the scene, right? So that's the whole idea. So to do that, we do a swipe, right? So basically we touch from here, we swipe up and we release, right? So we are going to track the position of this, right? So basically these are mathematics, right? X axis and Y axis. So we track the X and Y axis from here, and also we track the X and Y axis at this point, right? When we release our finger, right? And then we're going to calculate this distance, right? And at the same time, we calculate the time, right? If you swipe very fast, then the force should be extremely high. And if you swipe really slow, then the force should be extremely small, right? So I track the time from, when you start swiping and when you end swiping. I'm going to track the time as well, right? So the force that I'm going to apply, right? The force that I'm going to apply should be directly proportional to this, to the length of my swipe, and also indirectly proportional to the time difference, right? Time difference. Basic maths, right? If your time is small, then F is higher. If your time difference is larger, F is lower. F means the force. Right. So that's what we are going to be doing today. Right. So I'm going to rename this sphere to Pokeball, and I'm going to put it inside my AR camera, right? So I'm going to put it inside my AR camera. So just look. So when I select my AR camera, so let me dock this right over here. This AR camera sees this Pokeball, right? So I can like move my Pokeball right over here and put it, around this place. Now it's going to be spawned, it's going to be positioned right over here. All right, so I'm not going to be using any hard coded, any hard movements to do that. I'm going to be using the exact code to do it. Right, so to Pokeball, I'm going to attach a script that I have written already, which is called Pokeball, right over here. So I'm going to drag that and I'm going to put it on top of my Pokeball. Right, I'm going to open up that script and I'm going to explain what each and every thing means. All right, so let's see. So we have various different variables: the start time, the end time, the start position, and the end position. Right, basically these four, the start position, end position, start time, and end time. And there we go. And also I have something, called force, which is the resultant of the calculation of this. Right. And here I have taken something called a rigid body. A rigid body is a component that we attach, that we allow 3D models to have physical properties, right? So if we attach a rigid body component to a 3D model in Unity, that 3D model is going to have physical properties like, movements, acceleration, velocity, and stuff like that. All right. So first thing that I have done here is I have taken the reference of the rigid body attached to that 3D sphere, and I assign it as the ball, right? And here there is something called use gravity and is kinematic. I'm not going to be explaining to you, that much. Is kinematic basically is a physical object that doesn't like act on any forces. So it's kind of like a solid object in the scene. So we need to make this Pokeball a solid object, and also we need to make the gravity of that Pokeball should be 0, because we don't want that Pokeball to be like, fell down at the beginning. We need the Pokeball to be extremely, rigid, solid. That's it. And also in this code, which says transform.position, that means it will set the position of the Pokeball by using this script. So what we have done here is camera.main.screen to world point. So basically, this is the screen, right? But in the actual world, the ball is in the 3D space, right? So what we do here is we get this point from the screen space and we convert it to the 3D space, to the 3D dimension in Unity, right? Camera.main.screen to world point kind of does that. And here I have passed a vector, right? A vector is basically X, Y, and Z, right? In the 3D world, right? So the X position will be screen's width divided by second by 2, right? Basically, this plane. And also, the height, the Y value should be screen.height divided by 7. So the Y is calculated from all the way here. So if we divide this to 7 parts, it's going to be, it's going to be placed right over here. That's it. And also the Z value, I have put it as 1. so that the ball will be placed 1 meter distance away from the camera. Right. Now see what we have done here. In the update method, we check input.touchCount. That means if there is a touch, right? If there is a touch, the touch count is more than 0, right? And that touch face, right? So you get the first touch of the screen, and it checks the face of that touch. So in Unity, or in any case, for a touch, we have different phases, right? Began phase is where you start touching the screen, right? When you start touching the screen, what does it do? It takes the position of that touch and assigns it to start position, right? That's it. And at the same time, what it does is, so what I have done here is, I get the z value of that specific point because it's the screen. So the z value is going to be 0 there. I get it. I get the position, the z position of the ball, and then I reduce the camera z position. So even if the camera is in, like, by the edge of this 3D world, the position of this, the difference of this is going to be exactly similar, right? And what I have done is, I have again set the start position, and I convert that start position from the screen position to the 3D world's position. So this is basically to understand the force, right? Understand the distance to calculate the force, right? And at the same time, I capture the start time as well. Start time equals time.time. So time.time at this time is going to be the time, the start time. All right, now I check the end phase, the release phase. So this is where everything happens, right? Else, if there is a touch and the phase of that touch is ended, that means the touch end, it does the same. It calculates the end position. It deducts, it gets the difference of the ball's position with the camera's position, and then convert that position into the 3D world's position. And also at the same time, it will capture the end time as well. All right, that's it. Now we have a value that we have added here called force, which is a vector 3 value, right? And that force is right over here, is the difference between the end position and the start position, right? It will give the distance. Now, not the distance actually, but a vector that defines the difference between two. And I calculate the z value of that because I want to force, sorry, I want to set the z position, right? The z, that means the forward force, which resembles the distance of those two different positions, right? So what I have done here is, sorry about it. So what I have done here is I have taken the magnitude of that phase, that force. So if you are if you know mathematics, the magnitude of a vector kind of gives the size of that vector, right? So we get the magnitude of that force, the difference, and we assign that to the z value. And what I have done here is I divided that force by the time difference, right? Basically this, right? So I get the magnitude, and then I divide it by the time difference. That's it. Now what I have done here is that now the ball has to move, right? So it shouldn't be a solid one. It has to move. So what I have done here is that I set the kinematic to false, and I set the use gravity to true because the ball has to fall down. Right. That's it. So we calculated the force. Now we have to add that force into that ball. So what we have done here is ball.addForce, and we apply the force, but not just the force, we apply that by a force factor. That is because the screen size is fairly small, right? What we get with this d value is fairly a small value. So we have to multiply that by a certain constant, right? So this is how we get rid of this proportionate value, and we can assign it by multiplying the whole thing by a constant, right? That constant here is known as the force factor, right? This force factor I have added right on top of here. Currently it is 10. So 10 is quite a bit of a small value. So we might need to change this to at least 60. Cool. And then we have another one called invoke reset ball. So what this does is, once we end the swipe, it will wait 3 seconds and reset the ball. So what that does is, similar to the start method, it will take that ball and put it right next to camera. That's it. Okay, cool. Now let's go to our Unity scene and select the Pokeball and set the force factor. Apart from that, we need to add the rigid body component into this as well. So you can select add component, search for rigid body, and there you go. Right, so this rigid body, you can see here, it says use gravity. I don't want to use gravity. Is kinematic? Yes, because it has to be solid. Right, since this is a parent, since this is the parent of the AR camera is the Pokeball, when you move your camera, the Pokeball kind of comes with you, see? So that's fine. All right, now we need to see how the collision works, right? Now we throw the ball, that ball has to come and hit this guy right over here, right? Hit this guy, and it has to be triggered, right? So to do that, I'm going to apply a collider to my monster, right? So I'm going to select my monster, select add component, and search for box collider, and hit enter. So when you do that, you will be able to see a box, see? Fairly a big box, right? So you already see a kind of a like white box. That's not important. What we see here is this one right here. Okay. All right. So yeah, it's quite big. Cool. All right. So in Unity, there are two different types of collisions. So this collider kind of creates a boundary of these objects, right? And when another physical object comes and get collided with it, this is the boundary that it collides, but not the not the body of the monster, right? So I have like expanded the area of this because it's there's a higher chance of like getting errors when you're throwing the ball, right? So when the ball kind of like goes over here, it should trigger, right? Okay, so as I've explained, there are two different types of collisions in Unity. One is an actual collision, and the other one is a collision, but the collision doesn't like have any forces on top of it. They will just go through each other, right? But it will trigger that there has been a collision, right? There has been a collision, there has been a collision enter, and also there has been a collision end, kind of like gets out of it, right? So instead of saying collision, we call them as triggers. So here, what I'm going to do is when this ball gets triggered with the collider of this monster, then the monster has to die. That's it. All right. So here I set the box collider to is trigger, right? By doing that, so this will work as a trigger. And in the code, I'm going to write, if this ball gets hit with the monster should destroy itself. Right. So in Unity, there can be a lot of collisions, right? Thousands of collisions that we cannot even think about. And here we need to filter out this collision. The ball gets hit, the monster. To do that, Unity kind of provides something called tag system. You can tag various different objects, and another objects get collided with that particular 3D model or 3D object. The first thing that it's going to do is it will check whether this is the correct 3D model, correct game object. So to do that, you can tag this 3D model, 3D object, right? So you can do that by selecting the Monster Hunter, going over here and choosing monster tag. So you might see how this monster tag comes here. You can just select this and go to add tag and type, select this plus button and add whatever you want, right? I'm not gonna be using any other else. So you have to go back to your monster and you have to select monster right here. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. You have to do that. Awesome. Now let's go back into our Pokeball script, right? So in the script, you can see another method, a very simple method called Ontriggerenter. This method will only be executed, right? Only be executed if there is a collision, right? Okay, so there is a collision now, and here it will check other.gameObject.compare tag. So other in the sense, so we have attached this Pokeball script to our Pokeball, and when it collides with the monster, it will check the tag of the other game object that it collided, and if the tag of that other game object is monster, then it will destroy the other.game object. That is pretty much it, right? So I guess you kind of had a bit of an understanding about, all of this code. It's a bit complex, right? A little bit like, 80 lines of code means it's really hard to put it into a very small workshop. But I think you got the idea of what we have done here. All right. So when you do that, now everything should work, right? When you swipe up, the ball should go. When you scan around, the monster should be placed. And when the ball kind of gets hit the monster has to get destroyed. So that is the basic idea of the Pokemon Go, right? So when you do that, I think that's pretty much it. So you can get rid of this monster, right? You can disable this monster, and this is going to be the whole thing, right? You can go to File, Build Settings, select your platform, select the scene, and hit Build, and it will provide you something like this. Let's see that again. There you go. So now you can see that the planes are now gone. That is because we disabled the planes as soon as the monster is tracked, right? So here, now the ball gets reset after 3 seconds, right? And when I swipe up, right? So it doesn't matter. So if you swipe from here to here, the force is actually going to be to this direction. That is because we got the screen's position and we converted it to the 3D world's position. So the direction is always going to be where we swipe, right? Even if we swipe down, the ball is going to just swipe down, right? If we swipe sideways, the ball is going to go sideways. All right. I think that is pretty much it. So let's see the latter part of this video where you, one more. There you go. It just got destroyed. So this whole project is a combination of a lot of C# scripts, right? You can revisit this video. You can. We're going to be providing you the assets, the 3D models, the animations, the scripts, and everything. You can just go, download that project. You can have a look. You can change the different values, build it, iterate, and test how this works. So that is pretty much it. I think Kyle can join on stage right again so that we can move on to the questions.
Awesome. Indica, really appreciate it. Great presentation today. Nice to see that you were able to catch some random monsters in your house. I'm sure that was a bit of a worry for you and the family to have these things traveling around your home. Let me just reshare my screen here, folks. Once more. Also, can you let me know again in the chat tab? Can you see my screen? Can you hear me clear? Is everything good? Just a quick update would be helpful. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, thanks, team. Really, really appreciate it. Indica, awesome work once again. Really, really appreciate you joining us there. I always learn something new at these workshops. So it was really cool to see, and the bit about the code was actually super, super helpful. So thank you for sharing. Folks in the audience, quick reminder once again that the session is recorded. You're going to get all of this stuff sent to you. You're going to get the project files, the assets. You're going to have the recording to rewind, fast forward, pause, do whatever you got to do. That should hit your inbox in, let's call it a few hours later on today. I'm going to take a few more minutes here. We're going to wrap up with a very, very short presentation here, just revisiting a little bit about us as a company, telling you about what we've got going on, and then we are going to do our Q&A session. So if you do have questions, about CircuitStream, about the workshop today, about the industry, anything XR related, please go ahead and drop those into the questions tab. There was a couple that I was monitoring backstage while Indica was doing his presentation. A couple good questions I think will spark a discussion, so feel free to drop those questions into the questions tab. Last thing, this one really helps us as a company. Can you all please head on over to the polls tab? I'm going to publish the poll now. So what we're polling for is, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this workshop to a friend? This one really helps us out. It helps us to know whether we should continue doing workshops like this, content like this, in this fashion. So please do take a moment there to answer that one, as it really helps us. So thank you in advance for that. Dan saying 38 minutes. That's how long it'll be before you get the recording. Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it. Okay, let's move on with the presentation. If you've enjoyed learning with us today, we would obviously love to have you join a program with us, and I just want to breeze over the course offerings that we do have. So once again, the XR Dev with Unity course. It's our beginner-friendly part-time course designed to teach fundamental skill sets and best practices for prototyping VR and AR content in Unity. You actually got a bit of a sneak preview there of the type of code that we'd be going through, building interactions, working with different asset packages for different platforms, different interfaces. This is all normally what we teach in class and what we can help you out with in the one-on-one appointments included in the course. Now, you can see the price on screen there. So that's $3,950 for our VR Starter Pack bundle, which I will speak about in a second. We're actually right in the middle of our spring sale. So that bundle price has dropped pretty dramatically, which I'll show you guys in just a quick second here. We do have our next cohort beginning on July the 6th. We're also running cohorts specifically for folks in time zones in the Middle East, in Europe, and in Asia. So Indica is going to be leading that session. We do actually have one beginning next week with Indica at those time zones. And we have confirmed that our next will begin, I'm actually not familiar. I believe it's August or September. We're going to be running another 10-week XR development with Unity course cohort at time zones friendly for folks in the MENA geographies. So check it out if that's something that you're interested in. Same deal, our interaction design and prototyping for XR course. This is our beginner-friendly XR design and prototyping course. The idea here is we want to teach you how to design and prototype content as a designer without having to leverage code, using packages like the XR Interactions Toolkit. Our first ever cohort in this program is set to begin on June 14th. We are offering our alumni 50% off for the first cohort, and this course is available in a bundle or on its own via the spring sale as well. So once again, that $3,950 price tag is significantly reduced for the duration of the spring sale, which wraps up in just a couple days, actually, later on this week. Last one to reference, our XR Project Accelerator course. This is in the development side of the pathway courses that we offer. It's the more intermediate or more advanced course that we do offer. This would be great for folks that have either completed our 10-week XR development with Unity course, or for folks that, based on what you saw today, this wasn't very challenging. This was something that you'd be able to do on your own already. Now, as promised, here's the details on our sale. This is taken straight from our website, and I believe that Dayon, my colleague, did just throw the link in our chat. So for this sale, we are offering three different bundle options, as well as a your call option as well. So effectively what the sale is, the VR or AR starter pack bundle that we do sell is significantly reduced, as mentioned. So from $3,950 to $3,000. In this bundle, you have the opportunity to choose between one of our 10-week courses that we've presented today. And either way, whichever course you choose, you're also going to get access to our shorter 3-week C# scripting fundamentals course and an Oculus Quest 2 headset, provided that Oculus can ship to your region. It is important to note the C# scripting fundamentals short course. It's not a prerequisite. It's not mandatory to be able to take either of our 10-week courses. However, for folks new to coding, it is a huge asset to do in advance of the 10-week development course. So we highly, highly recommend that you take it leading into the larger program. And then for folks looking to do the design course, coding isn't included in that class, but we really do believe that designers ought to have a fundamental understanding or basic proficiency with coding in case that ever is required based on the projects that you might be working on. And so in that case, if you're going the designer pathway, we would still recommend that you do the C# course for that reason. The Accelerator Pack is very, very similar. The only difference here is that rather than picking between one of our beginner-friendly 10-week courses, this bundle includes the XR Project Accelerator course, so the more advanced development program in addition to the C# short course and the Oculus Quest 2 headset. If either of those bundles aren't really up your alley, you're not looking to do a bundle, you don't need the headset, you don't want to do the C# course, instead you just prefer to do one of our courses, or perhaps a combo that isn't included in a bundle. That's totally fair game, totally your choice to make. That's why we call it the Your Call option. This is a flat 30% discount that we're offering for the duration of the sale on any one of our individual courses. So whether it's either 10-week beginner-friendly course, the Accelerator course, or even the C# course, maybe you just want to start with that, you can do that on your own as well. Regardless of what you choose, whether it's one of our bundles, a course on its own, we do offer financing plans. So again, regardless of the price, regardless of the product, you will have the option to choose between paying in full or on one of our 3, 6, or 12-month payment plans. The only exception to the rule in this case would be the C# course on its own. This course is low enough in price that we won't be offering payment plans for that course. If you are interested in learning more about any of these courses, you want to talk about your learning goals, your project, anything like that, please don't hesitate to get in touch with one of the members of our admissions team. You've obviously already met me as the host for today, but my counterparts, Steph and Brendan, who I believe, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they're in the chat in the background today, answering some questions, that type of thing. They're also able to help out. You can definitely get in touch with us via the website, or perhaps one of us has emailed you or called you or something already. So feel free to reach out. We're a little bit different from other companies in that we are really, really involved in the registration process. So before, during, and after that process is complete, we're happy to answer any of your questions, technical or otherwise. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We will not bite. Feel free to use that link that Dayon shared in the chat if you want to learn more about the sale specifically. That sale actually ends at the end of the day on Thursday of this week, or if we sell out of the discounted seats available by before then. And it's at that point that we're going to go back to our regular pricing. But if you're interested in downloading a syllabus or submitting an application to enroll in a course, head on over to circuitstream.com/learning, and you're able to click through each of the programs that we have to offer there. Okay, great. That's going to wrap up the post technical presentation. I hope I said that right. At this point, I'd like to invite Indica back up on stage. I know that there are a couple of questions that we didn't quite get to. So let's go through and answer some of those. So Indica, welcome back. Good to see you again. For the folks who are still in the audience, please feel free to add some additional questions, and we'd be happy to go through those. Okay, so unfortunately, I can't answer this question live, but Silvana and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly there. My apologies if I'm not. Indica, they're wondering about building a mobile AR app, the platform differences. So can you just shed some light on this? Let's suppose that I've got a PC, but I want to build for my iPhone. Can I do this for my PC? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So basically, if you have a PC, you can build for Android. And if you have a HoloLens with a PC, you can build for HoloLens and as well as the Magic Leap. But if you want to build for Apple iOS, then you're going to have a Mac, right? Mac with Mac OS running. So in any case, if you don't have a Mac, you still can use a PC with a virtual setup running. But for the best performance, I recommend to use a Mac to build applications for iOS, iPads, iPhones, and all of these Apple devices.
Cool. Just to be clear, Indica, so would I be able to actually put together my build in Unity for my iPhone on a PC? I just won't be able to render it, or is it don't build it at all on my PC?
Yeah. So when you build for iOS, right? So when I build for Android, it just creates something called APK, which you can put it into your Android phone and install. But for iOS, Unity will build something called another Xcode project, right? So this project can be opened up using a tool known as Xcode, which is only available in Apple Mac, right? Only available for Apple users. Right, so you have to. It's like a two-way process. You build the Xcode project with Unity, and you have to open up that Xcode project and run that through Xcode, so that you can run it in your iPhone. So it's a little bit of a complex process. So we have to have another session explaining that whole process. But that's it. So that's why we have these 101. So I remember that I have helped a ton of individuals who in 101s sharing how to step-by-step guidelines of how to build it to the iPhones and iPads as well.
So then it's saying in the chat there, damn Apple. Yeah, for real. It's never it's never straightforward. But again, that's why we have the one-to-ones included in our courses and available for purchase. The idea is we want to be able to help you overcome these problems together. So it's just it's unfortunate. I often come across folks who have a Mac and an Oculus Quest 2, and it's just this. It's one of those examples where building for the Quest 2 on a Mac is very, very challenging.
You can't do that.
You can't do that. So they're they're very popular sort of devices, but they're competing platforms, which is sometimes a challenge. So Mark had a few good questions here. So let's breeze through these ones, Indica, if that's okay. I get the impression, Mark, if you're still here, that you're a little bit more advanced than the average person in the webinar today who's a bit newer to Unity. But Indica, Mark is asking, you said that loading a universal model can take some time right at the beginning as you were doing your build settings. Any recommendations for RAM or graphics cards for optimal XR dev work in Unity?
So using universal render pipeline. So since we have used universal render pipeline, it is kind of an optimized render pipeline for graphics. But for optimal XR development, what matters mostly is the 3D models that you use inside of it, right? And also the graphics quality. So if you go to your project settings, if you go to your graphics settings, you can tweak different lighting settings and shadow settings, the quality of the lights. It's really similar to you building a mobile game. So when it comes to AR, we play around with devices that has limited capabilities, right? It's just a handheld device, not connected to a power source, right? RAM and everything is inbuilt. So we need to continuously check, right? We need to start by keeping performance in our mind, and all of the assets that we are using, they have to be in in low poly, not like extremely high poly with high end graphics, high end textures. No, we need to keep that balance, and you can do that by iterating through developing different types of iterations of the same app, right? By doing that, so you can do a little bit of profiling, you can understand which causes a lot RAM, right? It's not just graphics, right? The RAM can be increased by some code that you have written, right? If that code is not efficient enough, the CPU and the RAM usage kind of like goes up.
Spikes,
right? So you have to take that considerations when you're building projects.
The other thing too, Mark, just dovetailing off of what Indica was saying, we actually posted a really good article that I just linked in our chat here. This is a really good resource for understanding the requirements to be able to run VR at a minimum, and then sort of at a recommended level, and then an over-the-top beast mode set up for a laptop or a desktop situation. It looks like we've got a follow-up here too from Mark in the chat. I'm curious about loading and building files. You said it takes so long that you didn't want to take the chance of doing it live. So Mark, I think in this case, sorry, Indica, you go ahead. You
yeah, that was because I choose universal render pipeline. Even if you choose 3D, it's going to take some time. Universal render pipeline kind of loads a template project, right? So that template project just have 3D assets, as you saw, like that construction area. So to load that into memory, it's going to take some time. That's pretty much it. But once you build that project, and it's not going to take that much of time. So that is for the very first time. So even if you like start with a blank project, it's going to take at least a couple of minutes to load.
Yeah, and I was gonna, again, just to add to that, Mark, it's not like it's gonna take 2 hours. It's just because we're in a tight workshop setting, we wanted to cut down on as much dead air time, I guess you could call it, as possible. So just a few minutes in this scenario for a smaller project. Moving on, here's a good question also from Mark for not only the beginners out there, but just people in general. Do you have to use C to work with Unity? What are your thoughts there, Indica?
Not C. C is a very primitive language, right? Very low-level language. Not C, but you have to use C#. Unity used to have the capability, compatibility to be used with JavaScript, but down the line they removed JavaScript support. But now they're like fully focused on C# and C# libraries. So if you want to build something, your code, your own logic, you have to use C#. But if you are like not a big programmer, there are various different plugins and tools that you can install. For example, there is something called Bolt, which is now owned by Unity. You can go to the asset store and you can download that, which is known as Bolt. Let me put it in the chat. And there's another one called Playmaker, which is a paid asset in the asset store. You can use that, and you can just drag and drop different building blocks to create your logic.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I was going to say the other example, the other package that we use a lot is the XR Interactions Toolkit. This is also what's used in our design course that I was referencing. So the XR Interactions Toolkit, or XRTK for short, it's basically a library of scripts that exist that you can effectively copy paste as long as you've enabled that package to power interactions without needing to code them yourselves. So a lot of the developers on our team, when we're doing professional work, we leverage XRTK to make their jobs quicker. But the fact remains, and this is the same with Bolt and with everything else, it's a tool. You don't want to be limited by that tool. So you need to understand the foundational stuff that goes into it, which is why, again, with the design course bundle that we sell, we still recommend that designers who don't want to be programmers take our shorter C# course to get that basic proficiency. So good question. Thanks for sharing, Mark. One more question for Mark, another good one here. Are there ever situations where you've encountered or you've encountered where you have to actually use 3D math or linear algebra to perform an operation or to create a visual effect? If so, any good resources come to mind? Indica, what are your thoughts?
Cool. So yes, basically when it comes to graphics in Unity and in Unreal or all of these 3D engines, materials are developed using scripts called shaders, right? So we have to use the shaders to get these materials out, right? And to create some cool visual effects, we have to use various different codings, right? Now in Unity with Universal Render Pipeline, we have access to two different things. One is shader graph, where you can build your own shaders. And the other one is visual effects graph, where you can build various different cool effects, particle effects. So we have a set of workshops that are that are targeted towards these visual effects. It's done by Tyrell, amazing guy. He does that, all of these visual effects. You might be able to see it in our YouTube channel as well. So he uses this while he's like building these different types of visual effects. He uses these different mathematical calculations as well. For example, if you want to have some sort of a snow effect, and if you want these particle effects to be like, to move away from you, right? So you have to use the positions, and based on that positions, you have to calculate the distance to each and every particle. So that's where you have to do some sort of 3D mathematics and linear calculations. But using visual effects graph and this shader graph, they have like created these building blocks, so you can like define these various algorithms pretty easily, right? It's just a matter of understanding the logic behind it and applying it to shader graph. So apart from that, you can go to Unity's official site. You can go to learn.unity.com. There are like a ton of resources available for shader graph and as well as the visual effects graph.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I really thank you for that question there, Mark. My colleague Dayon on the marketing team, he did link the workshop that Indica was referencing with our colleague Tyrell. That was a really, really cool workshop. We built some really, really cool effects in VFX within Unity. And there's a lot, Tyrell does a really good job at, similar to what Indica did today, of drawing out the math in a way that makes sense, sort of in a linear perspective. So really, really good foundational stuff there. And while we're on this subject, just so everybody in the audience is aware, we actually did a whole series of blog posts on C# scripting from the beginner. So I think it's 7 articles all told, and we've recently sort of compiled that into one link. So Dan, if it's not too much trouble, if you could drop that into the chat as well, that'd be awesome. Really good things to sort of reference back to back. And then, as Indica mentioned as well, Unity Learn is their free online sort of tutorial center. And honestly, if you're not looking to do a course with us, that C# content, our blog, and Unity Learn are probably a really good place to start. So just wanted to... Oh, Dan's asking what he should drop. The C# compilation articles that we did. I think there were 7 of them. That would be awesome just for the folks in the audience to reference. Okay, 2 more quick questions here. Lena, really quick, is asking, will we be shipped an Oculus Quest 2 for a loan? So Lena, if you're enrolling into one of our starter pack or accelerator pack bundles, as long as Oculus can ship to your location, wherever you are in the world, that'll be yours to keep. That's not for loaning. However, if you're doing a course on its own, you're not doing one of the bundles, you're doing, let's say, the design course on its own, that wouldn't include an Oculus Quest 2, and unfortunately, we can't ship one out for a loan. So it's either yours to keep or not at all in that scenario. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And then Silvana was asking, do you guys have an email that I could write to regarding teaching? Silvana, I will send you an email. Probably this afternoon or tomorrow, so we can get in touch via email. I think that is all. Whoa, that's dope. Yes, Lena, it is dope. It's a really awesome Really awesome device. The VR Starter Pack bundle is really, really popular. Really great way to get started, right? Like we're starting you out with the C# course to make sure you understand the basics of code. We're getting you the headset so you can experience VR for the first time, potentially on your own, and then also test what you're building, which is a really, really cool. The first time you build something and then actually publish it onto a headset, or even just enter play mode to test your application from Unity, it's a really cool feeling. So that's why we do it. That's why we include those with the bundles. Yeah. Okay, folks. Well, if there's no other questions. We are coming up on 2 hours here, so we are going to wrap things up. But if there's anything last minute, now's your chance. Drop it into either the questions tab or the chat tab at this point. But otherwise, Indica, thanks again for taking your time. I know it's getting late over there in your neck of the woods, so we will definitely wrap things up. But I really appreciate everybody for coming out and sticking around to the end. It's great to see everybody at another of our workshop. And, wherever in the world you are, stay safe. Have a great rest of the morning, afternoon, evening, and hope to see you at our next workshop or in one of our courses. So have a good one, and thanks again. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, guys.